Hello again, everyone. Sorry about that. Speaking of things going badly wrong, my camera decided to fail at just that moment. So, apologies for that. But just to pick up on the second or two of narrative that you missed, the British were successful when they took their shot in eliminating the German fire group. They got exactly what they needed. And that, as with the poor British vicars in a previous turn, was enough to eliminate the German Panzerschreck group. So on their final turn, they will be short an order token because of that, which is very unfortunate for them. Now, unfortunately, with the elimination of that group, they now have to skip a go again because they don't have a unit with an order value of 3, whereas the British do, thanks to Lovett being there. Now, it's difficult to know what to do with Lovett because the temptation is to run him forward, but again, I risk defeat if I do that. So he could stay where he is and take a shot at the German officer, who he can see in the woods, but it's going to be a difficult shot. It's going to be a -2 because of the obstructed terrain. But he does get a +2, and his range is not limited, so he needs a straight 6 to hit. It may be worth it. I'm going to play the British very cautiously now because if we lose Lovett, we lose the game, and this close to the end, it may not be worth the candle. He is going to cash in the last British ammo token, though, to give himself a +1. And he rolls a 3. No, his shot goes wide. So the German officer is quite unperturbed by this, but he too realizes that there's a risk now, because if he exposes himself, then the Germans could lose the game by being unable to generate any further order tokens. So that could be bad. So he's going to hang back where he is because there's not actually much point to moving at the moment. He's sure the British will move forward in the supply phase, but, you know, why complicate life for himself? So that's what he's going to do. He's going to stay there. There's no point going there either and getting into a fist fight with Lovett, because that won't really achieve anything for the Germans. So that's going to be it. So we're over to the supply phase. The Germans have no units that haven't received orders tokens. The British have 2. The bazookas are going to stay there in the hope that maybe they can try and draw bead on the tank this time. Oh, wait, no. The German officer has no choice but to move, because if he does not, the British will move up anyway. So yes, he does move forward. He claims the objective, which means during the supply phase, the British have no choice but to rush their mortar team forward just to provide a counterpoint for that. So yeah, how desperate is this? On the German side, the head honcho himself is dashing in with his Luger drawn in his desperation to get at the objective, while the poor mortar team, who actually are quite a capable unit in their own right in you know, regular combat and close combat. These are, after all, commandos. But really, the mortar team has no business going in there and getting their hands dirty unless you're truly desperate. But they're going to do it. And for the first time in this game, one side is finally able to claim this bonus, and let's see what we've got. +1 to our hand size, and that's a permanent effect. So that's a nice one for the British. So the hand size goes up by 1. Bit late in the game for it, but why not? The Germans will draw first. Again, all of these are potentially useful, although they might throw out repairs because there's only going to be one other supply phase, and if their tank gets that badly damaged on the last turn, then so be it. They really need better options than they've got. Ah, both of these are quite useful. It was just as well they discarded the repairs card. The British like both of their options, so they're going to keep those cards and they're going to grab 3 more because of a card they can't actually use, but and advance. That may be useful. I'm actually going to discard this card because I should have removed it before the scenario began, because the British didn't have any vehicles, so I should have pulled out all the vehicle cards. So they end up with relay instead. Okay, so it is now the final turn of the game. The British have the initiative and it's the orders phase. Now, do they have... No, they've got no cards that can take effect during the orders phase, or at least none that can in a useful way, because no one's suppressed. So they've got their 2 order markers plus Lord Lovat being able to do something. Now again, no-brainer. The mortar team is going to have the first order of the day. The second one, I'm actually going to give to the bazooka team, because they need to try and do something about that tank. They've been quiet all game. It's about time they earned their keep. And Lovat himself, again, I'm just reminding myself of his autonomy, is going to get the third one. On the German side, similarly, they only get 2 order markers now because of the losses that they have suffered. So, unsurprisingly, actually, are they going to do that? Because they're going to have to think about the interplay between their tank and the officer very carefully. I'm actually going to take a bit of a chance as the Germans, and I'm going to give the tank the first order token, and the officer can have the second. Because if he doesn't survive, then a first move will be a bit wasted. If he does survive, then he still gets his kick late in the game. Also, the Germans have communication scrambled, which means they're going to remove this order from the mortar team to prevent them from doing their officer any harm, which is probably what, he certainly had that in mind. So, the British have the initiative, but unfortunately, they have just lost their first order token, so that's out. So the Germans get to go first with their officer, the second. There's no point him risking everything in an assault, so he is just going to fire. And the British, anxious to preserve their unit, is going to hit the dirt. So the German officer needs a 7 or better. He gets +2, but he needs a 7 or better. And he rolls a 2. No, he empties his pistol at the cowering British mortar team, but he does not hit them. Ah, curses. That was a good effort, but he didn't foresee the British throwing themselves flat, so he doesn't get his chance to go beast mode. Oh, I've made a mistake. No, it was not the officer, because that's their second activation. Sorry. Ignore everything I just did. It's the tank first. But they will strike the same target. So I'll start the dice rolls again. The British are not going to hit the dirt against his main gun. They're reserving that for his machine gun. So it's +1 for the main gun. Rolls a 2 again, funnily enough. So that shot goes wide. But he then opens up with the machine gun. And this time, the British will hit the dirt. So the German tank machine gun needs 7 or better. And it gets a 7. So unfortunately, the British end up with casualties and a suppression marker for hitting the dirt. That's not good. The only consolation the British have is that the mortar team is at least still intact. And equally importantly, the German tank has shot its bolt. So it's now up to the British, but the Germans are not finished yet. They're going to play initiative, and that lets them wrest the initiative from the British, meaning the officer can now fire. Now, again, he's not going to take the risk of a close combat. He's going to blaze away at them with his pistol. And he rolls a 5, which gives him exactly what he needs to shoot all the survivors. So bad news for the British. They have been eliminated and the Germans are in control of the victory area. What's going to happen now? So it goes over to the British. We have our bazooka team here with only a movement of 3. I think as part of their movement, I'm going to expose them. I've decided I'm not going to fire at the tank. What I am going to do, 1, 2, 4. Okay. What I am going to do is order an advance. That gives them a precious 2 more spaces of movement points. So the bazooka team is going to dash round the entrenchments and plant themselves firmly there where the mortar team used to be and say, sorry, buddy, no, not quite. The Germans have activated all their available units. They never did get a chance to use those grenades, sadly. But just as well for the British. So the only order left is on the British side, and that is Lovett. Now, what is he going to do? He might, 1, 2... Lovett might risk everything in a close combat, because if he can eliminate the officer, then he's laughing. Because the British will be the sole owners of that position. So he's going to go 1, 2, enters the zone of control, but he can move that way to get into the close combat. So Lovett is going to go in, and this is going to be pure luck of the dice. He has no cards that can help him. And similarly, German officer Heller has no cards that can help him either. So it's going to be a straight roll-off. They both have close combat capability, but Lovett has an additional +2 in addition to his anti-infantry rating, whereas Heller only has the basic +2. So let's see what happens. 2 dice each. Lovett gets a 5 for a total of 9. Heller gets a 4 for a total of 6. So Heller is not killed. He's flipped to his wounded side and has to retreat a space. And the triumphant Lovett, basically punches his lights out and throws him back into the woods, which is bad news for the Germans, because that has effectively won the game for the British. The Germans have no further units. The British have no further units with orders. We could go through the motions of the supply phase, I suppose. Nothing there that can help the Germans. And nothing that would really help the British either. There's no need, really. So the only thing that might happen during the supply phase is that that unit there will go crashing backwards into the undergrowth because they don't want to be near that German tank when it wakes up on a future turn. But that has ended the scenario. And by the narrowest of margins, only thanks to the personal intervention of Lovett, the British hold the objective and therefore win the scenario. So there we go. That was pretty close, pretty tense. I found it very enjoyable, and I hope that's helped to convey why I like this particular scenario so much. As a teaching game and also as a quick one where you can just play a few rounds in an evening. You can either swap sides or you could have two or three different forces on this very low points count. Built up, and you could just try them in succession, have fun, get all the best elements of Heroes of Normandy in a nice quick scenario. So yes, I hope that you've all enjoyed that. Apologies for all the stumbling and backtracking where I forgot important things, and also apologies for the equipment malfunction. This was supposed to be one continuous video, but camera said no. But anyway, as always, I welcome any feedback, comments, thoughts, tactical advice. As ever, please do point out if I missed something really critical, because I'm sure, as is my wont, I do that fairly often in the heat of the moment. So I really appreciate those. But otherwise, it only remains for me to say a huge thank you for following this through to its proper final conclusion. As I always say, and I really do mean it, guys, your company on these sessions is really, really appreciated. Always good to have you along for the ride, especially in a game as exciting as the Heroes of Normandy series. And yes, I look forward to you all joining me, I hope, in the next video. And till then, please do take care. And thank you as always for tuning in. Bye.